As a tarot professional, relationship spreads are a huge part of my workload. And not all romantic either, often family, work, neighbours, communities, friendships. Relationship covers a lot of different types of readings. But I take them seriously because I know how much damage a quick and unconsidered reading can do to somebody's life. So I want to talk you through the basics that I consider and the spreads that I will use to answer a relationship question seriously. Because yes, I do get asked, does my partner love me? Is my partner having an affair? Are my children trying to fraud me of money? These are all questions that I have been asked many times. So this is my checklist. I'm going to demonstrate the spreads that I would use as well. The first question I think that people often are curious about with relationship spreads is ethics. Now, I think it is virtually impossible to do readings that never include other people. What matters to me is the reason why my querent is asking me this question and whether I can do the reading focusing on the dynamic between the querent and the other person or people, or whether I need to go off and kind of pry, snoop and look into other areas that perhaps the querent doesn't have the right to know. A really simple idea is if you ask me, does Bob at work have feelings for me? I will read for that. If you ask me, is Bob at work having an affair with whoever? No, I'm not going to read for that. So the question needs to be focused around my querent, that's the person asking the question, and what matters to them. A bit that I think people often underestimate is starting the reading with the querent. I'm going to go through the points one by one. If you've come to me and you've asked me to understand the relationship between you and Bob could be a friend or a boss or a romantic partner, I am not going to start with Bob. I mean, arguably, if I've read for you a lot and I really understand the dynamic, I might do. But 9 times out of 10, I am going to do my reflection or profiling spread on you, the querent, first. Because I can't tell you the number of clients that want to go straight to Bob. They want to blame Bob. They want Bob to be the accountable one, and they don't want to look at themselves. So I will almost always start a relationship spread by looking at the querent. And yes, this can really piss some people off. I will do one spread to look at the querent in this relationship dynamic. One card is crossing. I would read this as you might technically a reverse card. This is a problem, situation, or something that my querent needs to understand, integrate, or isn't fully seeing. One card for my querent's unconscious. One card for my querent's past up to this point. One card for my querent's conscious mind. What are they? And the dynamic between conscious and unconscious is really interesting. And one card for the future of my querent within this relationship dynamic. And so we have this beautiful pattern of past, present, future. I am aware of, I'm not aware of, how I am presenting or understanding or feeling this situation, and something that maybe I'm either not aware of or is a potential problem. And then I do always look at the card at the bottom of the pack as well, and I just take that into account as something important I need to understand. And I will talk this through with the querent. The main reasons I do this, as I say, is to ensure that the querent considers that they are an accountable and important part of this relationship dynamic. You can't do a relationship spread just looking at one person. And the second reason is my querent can validate this spread. They can acknowledge, these two here become the shadow cards. Gosh, I hadn't fully realized that. Yes, I am anxious or excited or whatever this might be. Yes, this is how the relationship the relationship dynamic is developing. So it draws the querent in, and it allows them to validate their perspective or their side. When we've had that conversation, then I put all these cards back and I repeat the same spread for the other. Let's say Bob. Now, remember, we are looking for Bob and how they are relating to my querent and anything that might be important in that relationship. A really common pattern I will see is somebody will come to me and they will be worried about their romantic partnership. They feel that their other half, we might say, feels distant, distracted. Are they having an affair? Do they still love me? Has the spark gone from our relationship? And then very often these cards will all be about work, stress, and money. And it can be really helpful to say to somebody, I think your partner feels really overwhelmed at work. I believe that they are trying to protect you from how overwhelmed or stressed they feel. I might get cards to do with addiction, perhaps the King of Cups or Temperance or the Seven of Cups. I can help somebody to be more aware of how the other person is. So when I've done those two spreads, and even if you've booked an email reading, I would do the cards in this way. I might not list every card. I may use these as sort of a fact-finding mission because now I need to look at the dynamic between the relationship. And let's just put this into context. If you have asked me, and people do, is my partner having an affair? I am not going to pull just 3 cards and then definitively say yes or no. I am going to go through every process of this spread because now we're going to look at the dynamics. This represents my querent within the relationship. This represents something that they need to integrate, understand, or that they're not fully understanding. And this represents how they are showing up to the other person. And now we have the other here. And again, it is a validating experience to read my querent's cards first. And it ensures that they consider they are an accountable part of this relationship. And so we now have the same for the other person. And now I have a choice. And I probably will ask my querent what they want. But as the tarot reader, it's my job to understand how to best read for this situation. I could read for a very simple past, present, future. Or I could read for a very simple advice. How does my querent best navigate this situation? Or, of course, I could do both. And there are lots of situations, particularly within family situations or romantic relationships, where clients don't want a prediction. And I think that's an important part of tarot reading to remember. You don't always need to predict. Understanding the relationship, navigating the relationship is far more empowering, helpful, and supportive than going straight into prediction. And now, and only now, would I answer the specific questions that a client might have. And when it comes to romantic relationships, it is usually, does my partner still love me? Are they still invested in this relationship? Are they having an affair? And I would now feel that I've got enough information about the dynamic between the two people I may well just ask straight up, and I might ask 3 cards. How does, let's imagine Bob and my querent are in a romantic relationship. How does Bob feel about my querent? They have highlighted someone at work. They're concerned that Bob might have feelings for them. How does Bob feel about this other person? And I'm not going to do this spread until I've done all of the other ones, because I have done situations where Bob might have a very deep feelings towards this other person at work. There might be cards here that could be mistaken as an affair, but that may be because they have a really close working relationship with them. And if the relationship spread between my querent and Bob have been really on point and emotionally connected, then I'm going to be able to read this as they have a really good working relationship, but I truly do believe and trust that Bob is in love with you. So be really, really wary of asking big relationship spreads without actually looking at the relationship dynamic between the two of you. And of course, this can be expanded to 3s. I've done a spread today, which was about a mother, a daughter and a son, and understanding the dynamic between the 3 of them. So there's many ways to adjust and adapt this. But if you are going to do a relationship spread, I personally think this has to be the order that we follow through. We have to start with checking our ethics. Do I feel comfortable reading for this? Does it feel right to me? We have to start with the querent. Now, of course, that could be you. It doesn't have to be another person. Before we look at the other person or people, then we need to understand the dynamic between the two. Then we need to consider advice. How is this best navigated with possibly prediction if that feels right? And then look at specific questions to do with this relationship. And that is how I will read for some really sticky questions about abuse, about fraud, about affairs, complicated, sticky questions, and be confident that I'm accurate. And the bottom line when it comes to the specific questions is if I'm not sure, I will make that very clear. I've come to this way of working because I've worked with too many clients who have told me that a tarot reader has given them a 3-card reading and told them definitive truths about their relationship, which were unfounded. And the advice comes before the possible prediction and specific questions, because I do not believe the future is fixed. And therefore, advice is so important because it can and does change the future. And the final spread that I might do as a sort of a rounding up is I might look at the past, and I often will put one in the middle to represent the relationship, one to the side to represent my querent, one to the other side to represent, in this case, Bob. The past, the present, which can be read as practical advice as well, and then the future, or the most likely future. And maybe that's why, as I look at my cards, they're so well worn, because when a client books in with me, they're not booking for a certain number of cards. They're booking for my time. And if the first spreads of a relationship reading are clear and obvious, I can read them very quickly to simply validate where the 2 people are and give me enough information to then read the advice, the possible predictions, specific questions, and perhaps this beautiful, which I love, the 9-card grid of really understanding what is the past of this relationship, how can it best be navigated, and where is it most likely going. And looking at the same relationship from multiple different angles really allows me to understand the little details that can make such a big difference and be accurate about the energies between two people. We can never be 100% accurate about the future. The future's not fixed. But what we can be is accurate about the dynamics between two individuals. And we can give accurate advice based on the cards about how the querent, which could be you, can best handle the situation at this point.